Hi everyone, it's Mary from Mary Makes. I recently posted on Instagram about how much yarn I used in 2024, and my top question was, how do your hands not hurt with all of that crocheting? So today I'm sharing 3 simple but game-changing tips to help you crochet without pain. And stick around until the end, I've got a bonus tip for you as well. Tip number 1 is relax your posture. I used to teach knitting and crochet classes, and my beginning students would always be strangling the yarn in their non-dominant hand and just gripping the crochet hook as tight as they could in their dominant hand. And you just need to relax. I'm going to show you what some good posture examples look like and what some bad posture examples look like. Let's start with ideally what we should be aiming for in our posture, and then I'll show you a couple of bad examples. Ideally, you want your hands to be in a pretty natural position, and I would say this position with your hands where your wrists are not hyper over or hyper extended in either direction, and your hands are slightly cupped while leaving space between your fingers is the most relaxed position for your hands. In your non-dominant hand, aka the hand that's threading your yarn, I want this hand to be as close to natural as possible. Ideally, there would be some gaps between your fingers and barring what you use as your anchor point. We'll get to that in tip number 2. In your dominant hand, aka the hand that you're using to hold your crochet hook, generally speaking, there's 2 ways to hold your crochet hook. One is the knife grip, as if you're about to chop some vegetables, or 2, the pencil grip, as if you're about to write a letter. I like to do the pencil grip, but do whichever works best for you. Just don't be gripping so tight that like you can see the skin of your fingers turning white because you're, well, basically constricting the blood flow to your hands. Now, some bad examples of posture in your non-dominant hand include, first, I call this like the chicken finger. Any finger can do this. I most commonly see it with the pinky or the index finger, but there's folks who crochet and they have the yarn being threaded between their lowest, segment of finger, between their knuckle and their first joint, and their fingertip. And I've seen folks do this with their index and pinky mostly, where you're using it like this to control the tension. That's a big no-no because you're clenching and using your singular finger to apply pressure. This is going to exhaust your hands very quickly. So avoid the chicken finger, whichever finger you do with. I've never seen anybody do a chicken finger with their ring finger, but just avoid the chicken finger. The other bad posture example I see a lot is basically the death grip. Whether you grip it with multiple fingers or even just one finger, this position is going into your hands, and if you can see your fingernails leaving marks in your palms, you're definitely gripping your yarn too tightly. So I've seen folks crochet like this where you're actively hugging the yarn into your palm. So those are basically the 2 big posture no-nos that I want you to avoid: the chicken fingers and the death grip. Now, this gets us to tip number 2, which is finding your yarn anchor. An anchor is a spot in your hand that can constrict the movement of your yarn so that you can control the tension that is being pulled. Everybody's hands are different. Whether you do a loop around your pinky or you go over your index finger like I do, the key is to find something that feels natural to you, and everybody's hands are a different shape. So with my hands, I have a naturally big knuckle here on my middle, or in the middle of my pinky. So this is where I like to anchor my yarn because it's easy for me to just go whoop and control the tension and release it. And then I like to loop my yarn around my index finger, because then I find that this motion of lowering or raising my index finger is very natural and easy to do, so that I can change how much yarn I have between my index finger and my project pretty easily as I go along. So your anchor spot might be between your middle finger and ring finger. You might be a wrap it around a pinky kind of person, but I would generally recommend doing something like this, where maybe we're threading it over our index, maybe we're even threading it over our middle finger. But as long as we're not cave gripping or chicken heading, that's going to be the goal. And it's okay to adjust this over time. You know, your hands change. I'm looking at my ring. You know, rings get resized. It's normal for your yarn grip, your non-dominant hand posture to change over time. But once you find what works best for you, I suggest continue going with that. Tip number 3, stretching. Just like you wouldn't work out with doing some stretches first, crocheting is a physical activity, and I do recommend doing some stretches before, maybe even during, and definitely afterwards, to keep your hands feeling good. Just like you wouldn't go for, a 3-mile run without stretching, your hands are going to need some stretching love too. So I'll walk you through some of my favorite stretches. The first one being wrist rolls. I love these. Just gently roll your wrists outward and then go the opposite directions. Roll your wrists inward. It's just a good starting stretch to get some love and motion into your joints here. So that's the first one. My next favorite stretch is kind of the extension stretches. So take your palm and push on one side to extend your palm behind your wrist at like kind of a 90-degree angle. You can also do it the other direction to stretch it this way. Don't forget to do that for both hands, right? And you can also do this at the finger level. So gently invite some bend into your fingers like so. And you can also go the other direction as well. I personally also like to just do some massaging. Like I like to take my index finger and thumb and just massage, like, I don't know what this is called, this chunky part of your palm, and just gently give it some love. And I'm generally going in between my knuckles when I'm putting pressure on with my index finger and my thumb on either side of my hand, and do that with the opposite hand as well. Just doing a little bit of massaging goes a long way. You can do this, of course, with your fingers. Just give them some love. Let those muscles know that they've done well and that they deserve some TLC time. And then don't forget your elbows and shoulders. I'm going to change my camera angle to show you my favorite elbow and shoulder stretches. As far as elbow and shoulder stretches go, I like to bring it back to good old middle school PE. Get your deltoids in, or yeah, these are deltoids. Do the tricep stretches. Do it on both sides. Ooh, that feels good. And then I like to do this whole like palm up, palm down kind of thing, just inviting some more movement. Going out. I like these, what are these? Like goalpost arms where you're pulling your shoulder blades back. Ooh, that feels good. Ugh. I think this stretch feels particularly nice just because we get a lot of, what's it called? Tech neck, from being bent over our devices, and our crocheting too, naturally. So just opening it back up feels so nice. So make sure you do that stretch. And then I'm probably going to run my arm into something, but I also like to take shoulder circles, pretend like you're swimming, doing the backstroke, go the opposite direction, do like a forward motion. So, oh, I would say those stretches cover the majority of what I like to do, but of course, there's more stretches out there and you're not limited to these. So I just recommend making sure you set aside some time for your stretches. And it's bonus tip time. This one might sound simple, but we don't do it enough. Take breaks every 15-20 minutes. Just do a little stretch, wring out the hands, just do something different so that we're inviting variety into our movement. Get a drink of water, do a lap around the house, whatever it is. As long as we're giving our muscles a little time in between to recover, that's the goal. And because I forgot to talk about this earlier, bonus tip number 2 is about your crochet hooks. There's lots of crochet hooks out there, so I'm just going to focus on kind of my top 3 crochet hooks. Number 1 is super common. You can find these at any craft store. They're these kind of thin hooks with a flattened area for you to hold it in. They're the lightest crochet hook. They're typically made of aluminum, and they're great for starting just because these are the most inexpensive hooks. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check something out like this. My personal go-to hook are actually the Clover branded hooks. You can see that there. Clover hooks have a triangular kind of shape to them, or maybe, well, I just feels like I can fit my fingers around them in a triangle when I hold my hook like this, and it just feels like more comfortable and fills my hand out more. So this is my go-to crochet hook. Clover brand and other ergonomic hooks are a little more expensive than these regular aluminum hooks with no grips, but I highly recommend these just because they're squishy, they have a good shape to them, and they're still not that heavy, because I think weight of your hook is another thing that can put a lot of strain on your hands. And then finally, I have kind of a fancy hook here. This is one of the Prym, P-R-Y-M ergonomic hooks. What's unique about these is these kind of, what's the word? Taper. They extend outwards and they grow in thickness. And so you can kind of adjust like, oh, I want to hold it where it's this thick, or I want to hold it where it's the thickest. So this is another flavor of hook that you could try out. These are typically made out of plastic. I personally don't use these just because I feel like the hook feels very long to me. Like the distance between the tip of my hook and where I would hold it is a lot longer than compared to the Clover hook, where the tip of my hook is here and I'm holding it here. So it just has a very long reach, which makes it unique in that regard. But with that said, honestly, crochet hooks, for being a little tool, they're typically inexpensive, though buying a full set can really add up. You know, if we're talking 10 on average, you know, $8 to $10 per hook, buying a set can be kind of expensive. But as long as we're experimenting and looking for what works best for you, that's ultimately what I want. So those are my top tips for crocheting pain-free. I hope this helped, and I wish you lots of happy crocheting in 2025. And let me know in the comments, did any of these tips help you? And if you have your own tips to share, I'd love to hear those as well. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when my next video upload is. But thank you so much. Take care now.